Hey everybody, welcome to American English Online. I'm Christopher, your American English teacher on YouTube. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about a more advanced grammar point in English. It's called inversion. So this video will be all in English. Do you know what inversion is? Do you know when it's used? Let's see. Typically, I like to say there are 5 kinds of inversion, but the first is kind of a catch because inversion means that you put the verb or the auxiliary verb before the subject. Now, anytime we ask a question in English, technically, we're using inversion. So, if I ask you, did you know that she arrived an hour ago? I'm using inversion because I said did before you. In the affirmative, it would be you knew that she arrived an hour ago. The question isn't know you that she arrived an hour ago, so we put the auxiliary verb before the subject. Another easy example, do you study English? Or is she your friend? So anytime the verb or auxiliary comes before the subject, it's inversion. We're not looking at those cases today. The cases we want to look at are some are common and a little bit more informal, and some are more reserved for formal situations. But you need to know them, and they are pretty common. So the first way that we use inversion, technically it's the second way, right? But so the second way that we use inversion is when we use a negative adverb or a negative adverb phrase. And we put it at the beginning of the sentence. Usually we do that for emphasis. We want to emphasize that negative thing. And I don't always have to use a negative word. As long as there's a negative meaning, we use inversion. As long as it's at the beginning of the sentence. One example is adverbs of frequency. But again, only the negative ones. So you got always, usually, often, sometimes, and then you go to negative. Seldom, rarely, not often, and never. When you start with one of those negative adverbs of frequency, we invert.
Welcome. Rarely have I had the honor to host such a distinguished and extraordinary guest.
And in the clip, she says, rarely do I have the chance or the opportunity to interview such an important person. So another example is when we use only. But when we say, for example, only then or only later, only isn't a negative word. But if I say only later, that means that not before. So it has a negative meaning. Look at this clip.
Murderer and murdered joined by fire. Only then can we have peace.
You saw she said, only then can there be peace. So there cannot be peace before. Only then can there be peace. Can came first, and then there be peace. And of course, if we use only with a negative word, then it just falls into the regular negative word category. Look at this example. The judge says, not only did you switch my courtroom, but you closed it.
That's right. I've been doing this for a while, but this is certainly a first. Not only did you switch my courtroom, you closed it, and then you closed the entire floor.
My apologies.
Not only did you. See, it's not a question. He's not asking about closing or switching to courtrooms. He said, not only did you. So it's emphasis on that negative part. Look at this next clip. It's from the X-Files. David Duchovny's character uses a very common inversion. He says, no sooner had something happened.
No sooner had we defeated Germany than a new threat started appearing in skies over America.
No sooner had we defeated the Germans, blah, blah, blah. Another really common use of inversion with that negative first word is the word little. See, little, it's not very much, so that's kind of negative. But we say, little did I know. And you can use it other ways, but little did I know is so common that it's a collocation. It's everyday language.
You thought the first bioprinted kidney was the perfect cover, but little did you know, it wasn't bioprinted at all.
What?
And Daniel Lee thought he'd have time to swap it out, but little did he know, you were going to kill his patient.
So in this clip, he says, little did you know that it wasn't a bioprinted kidney. And then he repeats and he said, little did he know, right? Because somebody else did something and they didn't know. So we use little did I know or little did you know to say that someone did not have all the information. Now check out this clip from Madam Secretary. She's talking about going against what someone wants. And she uses the expression, in no way. Well, when you put it at the beginning, it's a negative sentence and we need to invert.
I'm just reporting your commander-in-chief's position.
No way am I saying we back off this fight. The image of those planes crashing into the towers plays on a loop in my head.
In no way am I saying we should back out of this fight, right? The image of the two towers plays on a loop in my head. So she says, in no way am I.
No way am I saying we back off this fight.
Now, there are a couple things to remember when you're using negative inversion. Some forms of negative inversion take the inversion in the second part of the sentence.
This chapter is called Disconnect to Connect. Not until we put down our phones, switch off our computers, and look in each other's eyes will we be able to touch each other's hearts.
In that clip, they're reading a passage out of a book, and it says, not until we turn off our cell phones will we be able to communicate with the heart. So not until we, see, it goes right to the subject because the inversion is in the second part. Not until we turn off will we, there's the inversion, be able to.
Not until we put down our phones, switch off our computers, and look in each other's eyes will we be able to touch each other's hearts.
So with certain phrases, the inversion comes in the second part. Not until, not since, only after, only when, and only by. So that's the first thing. With those phrases, the inversion comes in the second part. The other thing is that we only use inversion when the adverb modifies the entire phrase, not when it only modifies the noun. The third way we use inversion is sometimes considered formal, sometimes it's not, but we use it in conditional sentences. We use inversion in the place of if. So instead of saying if I had known, I might say had I known.
This place is locked.
Yeah, I've been trying to get Jake down there forever. I known all it takes was a few broken bones. I would have hit him with a baseball bat years ago.
As you can see from that clip from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he says, had I known it would only take a broken ankle or something, he would have hit him with a bat a long time ago.
I known all it takes was a few broken bones. I would have hit him with a baseball bat years ago.
And this kind of inversion actually got famous with those Mission Impossible movies, right? Because Tom Cruise would get his orders and it would say, your mission, should you choose to accept it. And in this clip, also from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, she kind of does a little play on that introduction.
This is the Junior Police Program, aka Mission Possible. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get your life back on track. Narc!
So in the first clip, instead of saying, if I had known, he says, had I known? So it's not super formal, right? It's pretty common. And in the second clip, instead of saying, if you should choose to accept it, she says, should you choose to accept it? Now that use is a little more formal. And so is the inversion with were. Were I his cousin, I would never have gone to battle. Were I his, right? So you can also invert with were. So you invert with had, were, or should to replace if in conditional sentences. The fourth way we use inversion also has like a formal usage and an informal usage. If I use an adverbial phrase of place at the beginning of a sentence, I'm going to use inversion. But we have more common ones and less common ones. So the most common and informal are to use there and here. So the waiter comes to our table and he says, here's your milkshake. Here is your milkshake. Instead of your milkshake is here. That sounds strange, right? So in that sense, inversion is common.
Let me level with you, Elizabeth. Here are your old results. Here are your new results.
So in that clip you saw, he said, here are your old results.
Here are your old results.
Here are your results. And of course, there's a more formal and almost literary way of using that inversion. So I might write, as an author, I might write in a book, around the corner came my brother with all of his winnings, right? Oh, he went out and gambled and he won. So around the corner came my brother. So that's a little less common and a little more formal, maybe a little more literary. And the last way, the fifth way we use inversion, is also very formal, much more literary. You might read it in a novel, but you're probably not going to hear people say it unless they're giving a speech or it's a lecture or something important, right? So the last way is the word so, plus an adjective, plus the verb to be conjugated, and then the noun, and then that. So beautiful was her face that I couldn't stop looking at her. So majestic were the mountains that we decided to camp there. So adjective to be this thing, that, da-da-da. And this usage is so formal and so uncommon that I couldn't even find examples of it in videos. You know, I like to give examples, authentic examples from TV shows and movies. But man, this one, you just can't find it very often. It's hard to find. So it's possible and it's correct. It's just a little more formal, a little more literary, right? So that is a very condensed version of a lesson on inversion. Did you already know how to invert sentences in English? Did you know that regular questions are considered inversion? I didn't go through all of the negative phrases. So there are other ones that I didn't mention, like you could use nowhere, and that's kind of the negative plus a location. Nowhere have I seen such beautiful cars or whatever. So I haven't used all of them in this video. You can find a list of common negative phrases or adverbs at the beginning of a sentence that require inversion. Okay? So I hope this video helped you a little bit. I hope you were able to practice your listening also, because it's only English for this video. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment. I'd be happy to talk to you about it and maybe give more examples. Ask me if your usage was correct. Like the video, please, right? I'm doing my best to keep the videos coming to you every Friday. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and as always, let's practice. The wind hits, it's gonna kill my little papers. Big motorcycles, not a lot of isolation. No. Until, what is it? With all his, if you use a prepositional,